What's going on, everybody? Drix is here for the PDH Pals with yet another PDH deck tech. We are having a great time here in the studio going through all these decks and making these great deck techs for all y'all. And let me know in the comments, by the way, if there's any decks that you know we have and you've always wanted to kind of know the inner workings of. Comment below and just tell us you want to get a nice deck tech of that deck, and we'll be sure to get that to you. You know, we will get to all of our decks eventually. There are 126 of them. But if there's any that you're just itching to hear about, let us know in the comments. We'll take care of that for you. But today we have one that maybe nobody ever wanted to hear about, but it's Noble Benefactor, all right? This is my second mono blue deck that I'm going to be covering of 3. And these mono blue decks, they're not really about, you know, combo or control or any of these silly archetypes that we all know about already. These are more about creating a very bizarre experience for all the players. Okay, I started off with Manic Scribe. You know, everybody's milling 3 cards a turn. Everybody's graveyard's full of crap. You know, what does that do for the gameplay? You know, and it creates all kinds of weird things. Now this creates much weirder scenarios. Okay, so let's go through this card first. All right, 2/2 mono blue, as I said. Now when he is put into a graveyard from play, and yes, he does have to actually go to your graveyard, but when he goes there, each player can search their library for any card and put it in their hand. No restrictions. Basically, everybody gets a diabolic tutor. Everybody, any card to your hand, including you, but also all of your opponents. So, I mean, take that in for a second. That is just bizarre, you know. Well, what is this even doing at uncommon? I don't know. It's just a weird card, but we got it. So there's a lot of directions you could go with that, you know. I mean, you get to look for any card, so really no restrictions on what you want to do with it. The only restriction you have is mono blue, you know. So before I even get into the kind of strategy I went for, I suppose, I'm just going to talk about a few enablers for Noble Benefactor, right? So thing is, we got to sack him, we have to have him go to the grave, and then we need a way to get him out of the grave, because he can't just cast him from the grave. We need to get him out of there, back at the command zone, so he can do it again. So let's go through a few of those. First off, we got a couple of ways to sack him. Now, sacking him isn't quite as difficult because you can also just swing with him and have somebody block. I mean, you know, if somebody blocks it, they're getting a card out of their deck, so they might be inclined to do so. So you can usually convince somebody to kill him for you. But in case that's not an option, we have 2 pretty nice draw spells here first. Vivisection's very cool. You got to sack a creature, and then you draw 3 cards. So not only are you getting any card from your deck, but you're drawing 3 other cards too. Perilous Research is a pretty neat one. It's kind of weird because sacking isn't a cost for it. You have to resolve first. But instant speed, draw 2, sack a permanent. Pretty cool. Also good if somebody's blowing up anything. Like, you can just play this in response and sack the permanent that's going away anyways. And Stitcher's Apprentice is a really cool one. It's a 1/2 for 2, and you can pay 1 in a blue, tap it, and put a 2/2 blue homunculus into play, and then you have to sacrifice a creature. So you get kind of a replacement 2/2, and you get to sack them. So a couple of good ways to get rid of them. Also, another just honorable mention here, False Demise. Basically, there's a lot of these effects in black, but blue also has one for some reason. It's an enchant creature, and when that enchant creature goes to the graveyard, you just get to return to play. So when you sack it, you also just get it back immediately, and you can do it again even, and just get all kinds of cards out of your deck. So that's a few ways to sack him. Now, getting him out of the grave is a little trickier. First off, we have probably the best way, Relic of Progenitus. So this says tap, target player removes a card in their graveyard from the game. So you can just tap this, target yourself, and exile Noble Benefactor. Now, in Commander, if your commander goes basically to any zone, you can choose to put it in your command zone instead. So basically, this just lets you tap it every turn, get it out of your grave. Great way to do it. And while we're on the subject, Tormod's Crypt is also in here. In a pinch, it can target you to just get him back in your command zone, but mainly these are in here, you know, when you're sacking them, they're to stop other players from doing graveyard shenanigans. So, 2, you know, these pull double duty, right? Because they're great ways to get Noble Benefactor out of your grave, but also they're just grave bombs, which, as we've said in most of our deck techs, are pretty important to have in the format. And then we have 2 other artifacts that'll do it. These are really neat ones, and once again, these pull double duty in a pretty great way. So both of these, this one you sack it, and this one's just when it comes into play, but you get to basically put one card from your graveyard on to the bottom of your library. So if you target Noble Benefactor with this, you can choose to put it in your command zone. So another great way to do it. But also, you can use this to recycle your cards really efficiently in this deck. So like if there's a card you want to get back, you can put it on the bottom of your deck. And normally, you could say, oh, I'll shuffle my deck, and maybe I'll draw it again. But with Noble Benefactor, you can put it back in your deck, and then you can maybe later just sack the Benefactor and search for it, and immediately get it back. So that's another great way to utilize these cards. Also, Vessel can target any player, so you can kind of, if there's a Ghostly Flicker sitting in the grave, you can go grab that, put it back in their deck so they can't combo off. And then I have 3 creatures that are very efficiently costed, and also, put them back in my command zone. And this actually ties into the main theme of my deck, which I'll get to after this. But basically, all these dudes say, when they come into play, you have to exile a creature from your graveyard. But they're all really efficiently costed. So like this is a 3/6 for 3, a 4/5 for 4, and a 3/4 flyer for 3. So these are all really great creatures, and they put the Benefactor back outside of my grave. So all great cards for the deck. And one last little mention, and this actually is one of, I think I only run 5 draw spells in this whole deck. But Treasure Cruise, once again, just a great card in general. But Delve lets you exile Noble Benefactor from your grave, so just another little way to do it. So, like I said, there's a theme here. And it's not competitive because it's my deck. But basically what I'm trying to force here is mono blue aggro. Okay, so we're playing, I think, like 39 creatures, tons of creatures, all efficiently costed, just trying to flood the board and swing out. And the reason I like using Noble Benefactor for that strategy is because we can tutor up some of the very few anthem cards in the format, okay? So Sunken City, for some reason blue has a glorious anthem and white doesn't in this format. But Sunken City just has all blue creatures get +1/+1. You got to pay 2 blue in your upkeep to keep it alive, but it turns all your creatures into much more efficient attackers and blockers. And Mightstone, I truly adore this card. All attacking creatures get +1/+0, so it's another extra little damage you get on all your attacks. And so here's what I'm really hoping happens. Okay, now, this says everybody can search for a card, right? So let's say there's maybe 1 or 2 other aggro decks at the table. Maybe they're running Mightstone too, and maybe they just might be inclined to search for their Mightstones too. Okay, and we can have a little Mightstone party going on. Maybe all attacking creatures need +3/+0. You never know. So, and that's where this deck gets very weird and political. Like, you can kind of make teammates in a pretty major way when everybody's just searching for whatever cards they want. So like, you can kind of team up with aggro decks. Say there's a combo player, like person at the table or something, you can have everybody just search for the Relic of Progenitus. It's like good for you to search for anyways because it gets them out of your grave. But also like, try to combo out through 3 relics, and then everybody can go get their Tormod's Crypt too, and everybody can go get a counterspell. Everybody go get single target removal. So it's like you would think this deck would just hard lose to combo, but if everybody's kind of aware that there's a combo player at the table, they can utilize Noble Benefactor to stop the combo player from ever winning. And, exile their combo pieces, so it's never going to happen. Totally a possibility. But anyways, these are 2 of the main cards I'll be searching for first to kind of get it going. And, sometimes it's a little risky to just leave them in the grave, but I've almost always been able to just draw one of these several ways to get them out of it on its own. You can go get Relic to be safe first, but you're usually fine, or you already have one in hand or something. But so I have these 2 pieces of kind of pump for my creatures. And then I also have 2 other kind of aggressive cards that I'll search for if I already have the other 2. Soulberry is a really cool one. Whenever an opponent, it says target opponent, but now it's just each opponent. It's just an old card. But whenever any opponent casts a creature spell, they either take 2 damage or pay 2 extra mana. A lot of players will just take the 2 damage. They'll just say, whatever, I'm just going to take it. And I have seen this card do, 18, 20, 22 damage in a game, spread across multiple players, but still, That's, you know, nothing to scoff at. It's pretty serious. And Crashing Jobber, it's just this is a new card from Eldraine that's just been wild for us. Tap it. All creatures you control gain haste in the 1 turn. So, you know, if I have a big turn where I dump a bunch of creatures, I can just give them all haste and swing away. So 2 other good, aggressive, kind of, in a sense, they kind of work as like a group pump effect in the end, you know? I mean, give them all haste or just like giving everybody a tax effect that does damage kind of serves the same purpose. So those are the main things I'm searching for. Now, like I said, a big chunk of this deck is just creatures, just efficiently costed blue creatures. And what blue has a bunch of is flying creatures, which are great because not a lot of decks have flying. You know, you might see the Spider Silk armor every once in a while. You might get white-outed. Look out for whiteout. Big problem for this deck. But, you know, since we got a lot of flying creatures, Warden of Evos Isle is just a natural inclusion. All creatures, spells with flying you cast cost 1 less. So all these efficient creatures just get even more efficient. And, you know, before you know it, you just have this field of evasive attackers that, you know, damage really adds up. So, like I said, a lot of flyers. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of go real quick through each flyer in the deck. And, you know, I won't spend too much time on them unless they're particularly interesting. Starting off with some 1 mana options. Say these are your best bet. Jace's Phantasm, you know, we don't have like a mill plan or anything, but pretty often it just ends up being a 5/5 in the late game. And, you know, 1/1 flyer early on is fine. Cloudfen Raptor, we have a pretty good plan for getting that evolve up. But, you know, quickly becomes a 2/3 or a 3/4 even sometimes in this deck. And Wind Xenocon, you know, not a creature, but, you know, we're not playing this for combo or anything. It's literally just a 1 mana 2/2 flyer. And you're going to notice this deck's pretty low to the ground. I don't play much ramp. Most of the cards cost 4 or less. So kind of losing a land to get a creature is not the worst thing, especially a 2/2 flyer. So that's my 1-drops. Handful of 2-drops here. We got a few pet cards in here, but, you know, Brightberry Cohort's actually pretty good. +1/+1 as long as you control another blue creature. Pretty much always going to be the case. So basically a 2/2 flyer for 2. Bay Falcon, I don't know, something about this guy I like. He's a 1/1 flying vigilance, which I don't know if blue gets vigilance anymore. So it's just cool to see it. And you know, we've said before, vigilance is great in multiplayer, especially in a, you know, such a creature heavy kind of grindy format like this. Leaving a blocker up while also attacking is just a nice feel. So nothing to scoff at. And then Carnivorous Death Parrot, you know, I mean, consult your play group and see if they're okay with you running joke cards. But at the end of the day, this is a 2/2 flyer for 2. Super efficient card. All you gotta do is save a kill spell to deal with this guy in your upkeep, which is tons of fun anyways, so no complaints here. And then we got a lot of 3-drops in here. Oh yeah, quite a few. So I'm just gonna go through them 3 at a time here. So Dream Thief. If you've played another blue spell this turn, draw a card when you play it. 2/1 flyer, pretty great. Soaring Show Off also replaces itself. Also, each player draws a card, but yeah, not the worst thing. And then Teferi's Drake. We kind of have, we're kind of suckers for phasing in this house. You know, phasing's not the best. Basically, if you've never seen phasing, before you untap, this creature phases out. It's treated as though it doesn't exist. And then at your next untap step, it phases back in. So basically, you have this creature every other turn. What sucks is that means, you know, it has Summoning Sickness, and then on your next turn, it's going to phase out, so it doesn't get to attack for 2 turns. But, you know, if you have like a Crashing Drawbridge, or I also have Strider Harness in this deck, which I'll get to, you give it haste, you know, you get an extra little swing in. But they're all really efficiently costed, right? I mean, a 3/2 flyer for 3 is pretty good. Maybe even a 3/2 flyer for 2. Very, you know, very nice. I think it's worth it overall. But, you know, I'm playing mono blue aggro here, you know, so there's only so many creatures to work with. A few more 3-drops here. Got a really silly one in this pile. First off, we got Wandering Eye. Now, you know, if you really are curious about what your opponents are searching for with that null Benefactor, it's a great way to find out. Oh God, it's also truly obnoxious, but you know, they'll have to deal with it. 1/3 flyer, all players play with their hands revealed. That means you too, so they know what's going on. But into some more generic creatures here. 2/2 flying, Undying for 3, pretty good. You can only block creatures with flying, but we're not blocking in this deck. We're trying to kill people. And Wormfang Drake is just a super efficient creature overall. Flying 3/4 for 3, that's good stuff. And then basically you have to exile another creature you control when you play it, and then it comes back. But there's a few ETB effects in this deck. You can also, in a pinch, exile no Benefactor and just recast them, stuff like that. But he's in here because he's a 3/4 flyer for 3. Pretty good stats. Speaking of 3/4 flyers for 3, we also got Illusionary Servant. When it becomes a targeted spell or ability, you have to sack it. But if it's getting targeted, it's usually by a removal spell, so not really the biggest deal. And last but not least, a little 2/2 flying Flash from the new set, Vexing Gull. Love that art. And pretty efficient. Flash is always a nice little thing to have. And we have one blue 4-drop flyer, another phaser. As I said, we have a thing for phasing here. But a 4/4 flyer for 4. I mean, that's pretty well costed. I'm a big fan of it. So there are 2 other flyers in the deck, actually, the Spike Tails. And I want to kind of talk about these guys separately because I really like them. So they both say basically you can sack it to force spike and miscalculate, I guess would be the equivalent card for that one. Basically counter spell unless they pay 1 or counter spell unless they pay 2. This is great because it's like a bit of a tempo and it's a way to affect all of your opponents at once. Again, we've talked in these deck techs about how good open information can be in multiplayer, and this is another example of that. Everybody knows you're just going to counter the spell if they tap out, so everybody's kind of working 1 or 2 mana behind to resolve their spells. And they're flyers and they don't have to tap or anything to activate, so you can just keep swinging away with them, which is really great. So yeah, so I think that's it for the flyers. So as for non-flying creatures, like I said, there's a bunch of creatures in this deck. One suite of non-flyers I'm running are the I don't even know what you call these, like the looters, the Ophidians, I guess would be the colloquial term here, but let's go through some of these. Let's see, these guys are the most similar. So these are the guys I'm talking about. They're all creatures that say when they deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. And these are really great in this deck because my mana costs are so low. So if I can draw 2 or even 3 cards a turn, I can typically also play out all of my spells as well. So really great stuff. Nine-tailed White Fox, a 2/2. Steal of Secrets, 2/2. Scroll these to 1/3, which is a little worse because I'm not really trying to block with these guys. But they're all totally worth it in the deck. Now, there's also 3 more of these guys. There's so many, which is great. Jezian Thief also has Prowess. Not a whole lot of non-creature spells in this deck. Like I said, 39 creatures. But, every once in a while, it's a 2/4 or even a 3/5 if you're feeling crazy. But, it's just in there for the draw. And then these are a little different. First off, they trigger off dealing damage, not combat damage. I don't have too many ways to take advantage of that in this deck, but it's an important thing to keep in mind. There's a lot of cool things you can do with these cards. But this one, extra good because it has Soulbound. So it and the creature it's bounded with both get the ability when it deals damage to your opponent, draw a card. So that's great with all your flyers because a lot of people just don't have flying creatures. So that helps you draw your cards. And then Looter, nobody's blocking this, has Shadow. But when it deals damage to an opponent, you have to draw and discard. You don't just get to free draw. But still, discard a land you don't need. These are just great creatures when you're trying to, go hard and fast, low mana costs, really burn people out. And then a few other non-flyers. These are just kind of efficient creatures that I have in for one reason or another. I'll kind of go through them by mana cost again. So 1-drops, first off, got these 2 guys, 2 unblockable creatures. Great target for some of the equipment that I run in this deck, which I'll go over in a bit. Also great for Soulbound, like I said, an unblockable creature, literally can't be blocked. So, you're going to draw your card. So they just seem good, and it's nice to have a 1-drop to just play and just start getting some damage in, because I don't have too many 1-drops in the deck, I don't think. I mean, Wind's Endocon's another one. There's a few, but, the more the better. I really do want to just start playing creatures immediately if I can, so great guys. And then Phantasmal Bear, another one of these creatures that dies if it gets targeted, but it's a 2/2 for 1 in blue, so, why not? We got some 2-drops. This is just kind of a mishmash of things going on here. So Levy Sage is something that I've always wanted to play this card in a deck, and I figured if I'm going to play it anywhere, this seems like the place. So it's a 1/1 for 2, not the most aggressive thing, but you can tap it and sack 2 lands. Like I said, low to the ground, not the worst thing. But then I get to draw 3 cards and discard one of them. So it's like a little sift or ray of revelation, those cards. But that is just so much card draw, you know? And you can do it, you know, you probably can't do it every turn because you're sacking 2 lands. But just doing this once or twice, drawing through 6 cards, playing all the creatures you draw, I mean, I feel like this has so much potential. And I just really want to see it go off. I think I've activated maybe once in the games I've played with this deck. But I just really want to make it work. So I'm leaving it in here for now. It might get cut eventually, but I just want to try it a few more times. And these are just 2 more efficient creatures. Spellweaver Eternal in particular just has a million abilities on it. First off, it's a 2/1 for 2. So, you know, 2 power is great. Prowess, like I said, not that many non-creature spells, but might get it every once in a while. And then it has a flick too. So no matter what, it's getting some damage through. Because if they block it, they lose 2 life anyways, which is, you know, it's usually a 2 power creature. So really, really impressive stats for a 2 mana creature in blue. Because blue doesn't normally get the most efficient creatures. And then Pass Wall Adept, a nice little mana sink later on in the game. You can just make a few creatures unblockable. You can even make your opponent's creatures unblockable, maybe as a political thing, like, oh, if you swing at him, you know, I'll make sure it gets through, you know. You can pull that kind of crap. So I like it. And a 1/3, you know, 3 button, a little harder to kill, so it's nice. And on to just 2 3-mana non-flyers. Brackwater Elemental is a really funny one. So when it attacks or blocks, you get a sack it at the end of the turn. And it has an Earth, so you get to get 2 good swings in it. But it's a 4/4, which pretty meaty, you know. Sunken City's normally in play, you know, for you, so that's a 5/5 that you get to swing with twice. Nothing to scoff at. And then Trinket Mage, you know, it is a 2/2, which is not bad stats. And it gets all kinds of cards. I mean, you know, it gets Relic, which is always good. It also gets, you know, I run Bone Splitter, which I'll get to the equipment, like I said, but also Universal Solvent, you know, the typical usual suspects for Trinket Mage are all there. So it's pretty worth it. And, you know, blue creature, can't go wrong. Sunken City's in play. And then 2 higher costed creatures, both pretty silly ones. The Clanvassadors, you know, another joke card. And yes, I do have this as a commander. And it might be the next one I do. I'm kind of itching to talk about it. But really funny creature. Again, a 4/4, pretty high. 4/4 for 4, well costed. But whenever it damages a player, you have to basically give away an artifact, creature, or land you control. So, you know, you can, you know, if you really just want to not take any hit from it, you can give somebody your Might Stone, because it doesn't matter who controls this. And then you'd basically just get a free swing. But you can also like give people equipment or something silly. You can even give the Clanvassador away, and then they get to swing with it. You know, there's a lot of options there, a lot of fun interactions with this card. So I figured, you know, why not? It's an efficient blue creature. Why not put it in? And Sandbar Crocodile, the final phaser. It's a 6/5 though. It's huge. So I figured, you know, 5 mana. I think this is the most expensive spell in the deck. Oh, other than like Scour from Existence, but yeah, it's kind of different. Most expensive creature in the deck. 5 mana, but you do get a 6/5. Phasing, you know, has pretty major downsides, but also has some upsides. Sometimes you dodge a board wipe, or, you know, it's not there the turn that people are trying to cast the removal spells. You never know. But yeah, high stats like that, you know, can't go wrong. So I think that's every creature in the deck. Yes, it is. We're all done with creatures. So a lot of creatures, which means equipment is not too bad. I only have 6 equipment in here. They're kind of more geared towards aggressive equipment. So here's a few to start with here. Bone Splitter, of course, you know, +2/+0. Get in there in the air especially. It's really nice. Turn your random 2/1 flyer into a 4/1. Get that Sunken City out. Now it's a 5/2. Might Stone, it's a 6/2. You know, and it's all fairly possible in a deck where you can literally tutor out what you need, right? So pretty nice stuff. Morphous Axe, just even bigger, +3/+0. And every creature type. I don't think I'm really taking advantage of that too much, but it you know, comes into play every once in a while. But mainly in there for the +3/+0. 3 is pretty high. And Strider Harness, haste is amazing. +1/+1 is also great. So kind of a no-brainer. And then just a few more equipment. Silvox, nice. because blue doesn't really have life gain. So having a little pinch of life gain is always nice. And +1/+0, can't go wrong there. True Face Sensor, I actually have quite a few humans in the deck. Yeah, a lot of like the little looter attacker dudes are humans. So really, I pretty often get that extra +1/+0. But yeah, you know, +1/+1 in Vigilance. Like I said, Vigilance is great, and +1/+1 is always nice. Whisper Silk Cloak is just kind of a no-brainer in PDH. It's one of the stronger cards available to you, so you may as well run it. Making anything unblockable and giving it Shroud is great. Great target would be Tandem Lookout. You know, make sure it stays alive so the soulbound creature stays soulbound, and also make sure it gets through so you draw your card. So, you know, I mean, why not run Whisper Silk Cloak? And hey, I mean, not a bad idea to search for this Whisper Silk Cloak with no Benefactor, because it's just a strong card. So that's equipment. And last, just real quick, I do have 2 other draw spells in the deck. I went over most of my draw when I was talking about ways to take advantage of no Benefactor. But these are also just great ones. Secrets of Golden City, you get Ascended real quick in this deck because you're just dumping creatures. So 10 permanents is no big deal. You just get to draw 3 for 3. Keep Watch, likewise, you get a bunch of attacking creatures pretty easily. So this could easily draw you 3, 4, 5 cards, maybe even more if it's really late in the game and you're just kind of filling up the board. And also, you know, if you're playing against maybe some kind of, you know, one of those Saproling decks or go wide decks, you can play it when they attack too and just draw a bunch of cards. So really nice. But yeah, that's just the rest of the draw. And then one other category I want to kind of go over is just a handful of silver bullets, sort of, you know, because when you can tutor for any card, it's kind of nice to run specific little cards that are really nice in a pinch. So first off, these should look familiar. Universal and Scour. Extra good when you can, you know, go grab them when you need them, you know. So these just take care of any permanent, which is nice in blue, because blue can't really just destroy a creature. It can't really just destroy an artifact or enchantment. It certainly can't destroy a land. So this is a way for you to do it that isn't just bouncing it or countering it or something. So blue loves this stuff, and being able to get it when you need it, like I said, really nice. And just a few other, you know, nice cards to have in certain scenarios. Ray of Command, you know, for some reason, blue just gets to cheat the color pie. I don't really get it. But this is basically like an active treason effect, and it's an instant for some reason. But you untap a creature, gain control of it, give it haste, and you get it until end of turn. So if somebody plays like an Ulamog's Crusher, you can maybe sack your Benefactor, go get this, take it, swing at someone with it. And maybe, you know, in Magical Christmas Land or whatever the hell it is they call it, you might also have your Perilous Research, and you can sack it in a turn. So Ray of Command, great when you need it. And Uncomfortable Chill, another card that's great when you need it. It's like a weaker Fog, but it's blue, so kind of nice. Creatures get -2/-0. But that draw card is really, really great. I love cards that replace themselves, and especially on a card that's in a lot of cases literally a Fog. You know, if nothing swinging is bigger than 2, it's a Fog. To also draw a card, that's just really great. So I really try to sneak this into a lot of blue decks. Really good in a lot of scenarios, but you know, especially good when you can tutor it out when you need it. And Shadow Rep, just another little card. Cycles, which is nice, but it gives any creature shadow, basically unblockable. Just, you know, if you need a little unblockable attack, you can go get that. But it's never bad to just draw anyways. So that's the majority of the non-land cards. All I have left is just a little bit of ramp. And I say a little because it really is a little. I don't play a lot of ramp in this deck because, like I said, low to the ground, dump your creatures. That's all I'm trying to do. So we play Wayfarers because it's nice to have a little turn 1 play. And then we have basically the holy trinity of mana rocks for PDH. Arazka, Pristine, Commander Sphere. Totally trimmed the fat on this section. Just 4 rocks. It's really all I need. I play these for the life gain, really, and because this can draw a card. And Commander Sphere, once again, can draw a card and taps for blue, which is great. So, like I said, not a lot of ramp at all. Most of my decks play, you know, 6, 7, even 8 pieces of ramp. This plays 4. So, you know, super low. And then that's it for non-lands. So just a couple of non-basic lands I can quickly go over here. Skyline Cascade. I don't think I have this on any other blue deck of mine. I don't really like it too much, but I figure in a deck like this where I'm doing a lot of swinging, keeping a creature tapped down has its benefits. So I thought, you know, why not throw it in? And I've had a few good turns with it, so I'm leaving it in. It does annoy me that it comes into play tapped and all that, but it kind of pays for itself. So then I have the two kind of commander non-basics. These both give you a way to pump your commander. And, you know, one thing about No Benefactor is he does get casted kind of a couple of times. So if you can replay him with Opal Palace as like a 5/5 maybe, or a 6/6 in some crazy scenarios, yeah, that's just another threat on the board that you can put equipment on, that you get your Sunken City effect on, you get your Mightstone on, all that junk. So pretty good. And Forge of Heroes just keeps it always a 3/3. And you know, this can target anyone's commander. So you can pump up somebody else's as a kind of a deal or whatever. So just another political play for you. Just a few more non-basics here. Haunted Fengraf just gets you a creature back. You got a lot of creatures. A lot of them are functionally replaceable, so getting any old creature back from the grave is nice. Quicksand, you know, blank an attacker, and Cave of Temptation, just another way to pump up a creature. You know, put that on like one of the unblockable creatures, something like that. And suddenly you have a 3/3 or maybe a 4/4 Sunken City, unblockable. Pretty good. And just a few more. So I play the two Cloud Posts. In an older version of this deck, basically my strategy was I want to cast Noble Defector. Noble Benefactor. Sorry, I get Humble Defector and Noble Benefactor confused all the time. But my goal originally was I want to recast Noble Benefactor as many times as possible. Just let everybody search for as many cards as possible and just kind of see what happens. That was my goal, see what happens. So I used to play all the Urza lands. And basically I would search for each of them because the commander tax would get so high that I'd kind of need the Urza lands to keep casting them. And I ended up casting them 8, 9, 10 times in a game. And, you know, my win condition was basically like Opal Palace to play them as like an 11/11 and then make them unblockable or something and just go for commander damage, which was pretty silly. It ended up kind of morphing into this aggro plan. So I took the Urza lands out, but I did keep the Cloud Post in because this is just a 2-piece, you know, 2-land piece. So it's pretty quick to search for. But drawing the Urza lands was driving me nuts because I needed so much blue mana. But this is pretty inoffensive to just run. The Glimmer Post gains you a life for each locus in play, and this taps for 1 mana for each locus in play. So what's particularly funny about this is it's each locus in play in general. So if any of your opponents are running Cloud Post and Glimmer Post, they can also search for it. And then you all get, you know, 4 mana from your Cloud Post, or even 8 mana or something if you get the Glimmer Post as well. So I figured this is worth keeping in just for the silliness of it. And Radiant Fountain, you know, we're blue. Little life gain never hurt. And that's it for non-basics. Now, as for basic lands, I think I have 25 islands, if I'm remembering correctly. Counted it before this video, but I've already forgotten. I believe it's 25. So I think that puts my land total at like 36, which, you know, pretty standard. I could probably go down a land because this, like I said, it's trying to be really low to the ground. So you could put this deck to 34 lands and add a few more creatures or whatever you want. But yeah, that's Noble Benefactor. That's my take on Noble Benefactor. You know, like I said, this deck's super open-ended. You could do anything with it. But what I'm going with right now is mono blue aggro, and I'm loving it so far. So I hope you love it too. And like I said, comment below on any decks you'd like for us to do a deck tech of. We're more than willing to take requests. I have 126 decks in this house, and we're going to get through all of them, but if there's one you're dying for, be sure to let us know. But that's it for Old Noble. I hope you enjoyed it. And this is Drixus signing out.